Welcome everyone. This is a YouTube Zoom stream, a hybrid, if you will, and it is commonly called a non-duality meeting. A meeting that seems to have that title, although there is no real definition, there is no real elaboration, there is no real title. There's nothing that has actually described. There's nothing that's really comprehensible about this. It is suggested that this is ultimate and absolute and unconditional, and therefore defies the so-called realm of comprehension. This isn't about learning something or going somewhere. This isn't about achieving anything or making any progress of any kind. Obviously, I mean, well, it seems obvious. There is nowhere to get to. There's nowhere to get away from. There's nowhere to remain. There simply is nowhere without two, without duality, without separation. No here and there, nowhere. No now and then, no time. No one, even. Not really a separate self to begin with or end with. No separate self that actually exists. The separate self is a story, you could say, a story that seems to come out of sensations and perceptions, which are also illusory. Sensation and perception in general is just an empty appearance, like everything else. All there is emptiness. And that's that's nothing apparently happening really. There's no substance to any of this. But what is illusory is the what you could call the additional perception of there being a position located in space and time where everything feels objectified. And out of that kind of energy, everything seems to be distant, everything seems to be known and related to by this apparent subject. And that apparent subject is exposed as a dream, an artificial reality, you could say, an artificial reality of there being a position, and out of that seems to grow claims that there's someone listening to these words, that there is actually a subject that's knowing about this, knowing about that, going here and there and everywhere, and also maybe firmly held beliefs and opinions from an apparent organism that there is a chooser, that there is a separate self, and that separate self is choosing how to run the body, how to live a life, how to go this way or that way, what to do, who to be, etc. And all of the identifications that seem to grow on top of that maybe seem to emerge in a timeless time. And meaning and purpose and storytelling and going this way and all of that stuff seems to come about in that reality really of relating to other people and things and places. But what is exposed in the absolute sense, and it is suggested to be compassion, but it's an unknowable, incomprehensible, and unconditional compassion, is that this is already home. This is already wholeness. This has never not been wholeness, because the absolute, unconditional, total love and freedom it can't be moved towards or away from. It can't be bargained with. It can't be negotiated with. It can't be approached or avoided. It can't be neglected or ignored. It can't be honored and acknowledged and validated. There is no relationship to that. There is no relationship to that because it's already absolutely everything. So all apparent appearances, whether they are deemed bad or good, right or wrong, positive, negative, all those polarities are not real. But all apparent appearances are totally this. Everything is equanimously this. There is only this totality. It was never lost and it was never found. It was never revealed or discovered or hidden or secret because there is only that. And that whole separate sense that feels distant from whatever it imagines it's looking for can't come to know that because again the whole subject object relationship is an illusion of separation, so it never figures this out, it never gets it never finds or obtains or relates to what's being shared. Only in that illusory appearance can that seem to depart. Can it seem like the whole energy, the neurotic energy it would be suggested, can seem to kind of shimmer and wobble and fade and collapse. But that is part of that dualistic illusory paradigm. Well, then this is already home. This is already total. This is already the complete freedom that was longed for. So what can seem to happen in these meetings, these streams on Zoom and YouTube, is a question and answer, a kind of question and answer situation. So I'll be responding to what people are saying on YouTube, and also if anyone wants to say anything on Zoom, you can just unmute and jump in. Um, but essentially, we're not reaching a conclusion or a desired outcome. This is unconditional. This is already.
Alexis,
Hey.
I heard you say this, I think, on another couple of videos I've seen. You mentioned it again today. I was actually thinking about this today, thinking about asking you about it. You just mentioned that how did you put it, the freedom that is longed for.
Mm,
And I think previously you've also talked something about longing for home. I think you might have said something like that. I
mm,
just wonder if you could expand upon that, say more about that.
mm. So perhaps to put it a little bit poetically, it's as though the illusion of separation, and it can't be emphasized enough how completely illusory that is, and therefore its demise is illusory too. But in that illusion, it's as though that separate self energy, which can't even legitimately be called a self, really, but that separate kind of energy can come home to this maternal embrace that it longed for in every one, every place, everything it thought it was relating to. This maternal embrace can kind of swallow that up, but it was never separate in the first place. So it's like a coming home is kind of a basking in this unknowable wonder, and there's a kind of maternal, loving caress, and yet it's complete incineration and annihilation at the same time.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, for some bodies it's deemed quite homely, and others it's deemed, well, who knows? Anything can seem to appear. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, great to be back. Uh, my question today is what's the difference between an experience and a recognition?
Hmm. So Hmm. I mean, experience, the way it's talked about is a separate thing. It's an objectified state of some kind. Experience kind of suggests someone to have that experience. This being experienced by the experiencer, so to speak. Um, Recognition could be an experience if it seems like someone's having the recognition, but recognition doesn't necessarily require an experiencer or a subject.
Hmm, thank you.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind, could you talk about what is meant with the saying something is real and unreal?
Hmm. In a way, for some reason, there's a preference to say that actually nothing is real and nothing is unreal because to suggest that something is both real and unreal, it sounds it sounds suggestive and convictional or something. But there's no one really to know anything. There's no one to really know this is real and that's not real, you know? Without that experiential center, nothing is sensed as real or unreal. Nothing is sensed at all, not objectively or subjectively. Yeah. So all that's appearing to happen is neither sensed as real or unreal.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't really understand that, but maybe that's the point, that it's not understandable.
It does seem as though no one or and no thing can understand that. If it could be understood, it would be an object.
Hmm.
It would be a thing that someone could, think about and grasp, at least conceptually, and relate to. But there's no way of comprehending the absence of separation, the absence of objectification.
Hmm. So would you say that maybe a share is more real than the separate self, or is everything equally unreal?
It's not sense that everything is an illusion. It's just not sense that anything is real or unreal. It's not sensed as anything. If there's no subject to sense it, then there's nothing that's sensed as real or unreal. But that which could be called a self, it's not even happening at all. It's not even appearing to happen. So that is suggested to be completely unreal because it's not actually appearing. It's,
Oh yeah, but
it's
it
not.
feels like it's appearing
Well,
at
you could
times.
say there's a feeling, but it's not a self. It's not a person.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello to Furkan, Paige, and Michelle on YouTube.
So let's take time for an example then.
Mm.
Time is also an illusion, but it can appear.
Mm.
If we say that the sense of a separate self is not even appearing, it's an illusion, not being real or unreal, not even appearing as unreal or unreal. Let's say time then, would that be also in the category as the sense of a separate self, illusionary, or can
Uh,
it appears to be time?
no, to be clear, time as memory is an appearance, continuity is an illusion.
What's the difference between time and appearancy and continuity?
Well, continuity isn't appearing to happen. Continuity is not appearing to happen in any way, shape, or form. There's just the appearance of memories and ideas and thoughts and sensations. But there's no continuity in that. There's no real
Mm.
continuity in the appearance of a memory, a thought, an idea, a sensation, a perception, a feeling, and whatever. Anything else that could possibly appear does not actually really legitimately suggest continuity. So continuity is kind of an interpretation which is illusory.
Ah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So when it seems like to just kind of go on about that a bit more, when it seems like there's a separate subject happening, this so-called reality is interpreted as moving through time in a linear fashion, a chronological fashion, a continuous fashion, and that is a misinterpretation. And that's to answer Joey's question at the same time. That's how time seems to look like from that subjective appearance. But without the subject, there's no continuity at all, and there already is no subject. So There just is immediacy.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. TB asks on YouTube, is it not possible for separation to exist in any way? And what is suggested is that separation is existence, and existence is separation. Ex ist, stand out. There is no real standing out. There is no real existing. There is no real separation. There just is immediacy. Existence is another interpretation, it would seem, which is unreal. The interpretation is an appearance in a way. It seems like an appearance, but the actual reality of existence is it's not actually there. There are no separate things. There are no actual separate things that are connected or disconnected, attached or detached. There are no separate things. It only looks that way when energy sort of feels and appears to be positional or something. How could you say, he goes on, or she goes on, that's a misinterpretation? How are you the arbiter of truth, truth of reality? So, although this might look like some kind of authority figure sitting on YouTube and Zoom, it's absolutely not the case. And these words do not have anyone or anything behind them. They utter themselves, as does everything else. So it's got nothing to do with someone speaking the truth or falsity, as much as it might sound like it is with a great deal of conviction. There is no certainty or doubt about what's being shared right now, because it's just simply, like everything else, spouting. There may seem to be an accuracy in what is being said on a conceptual level, but it's not really coming from anywhere, nor is it headed anywhere. There's no intention for anyone to believe or disbelieve. For some bodies, there would seem to be a resonance to that. Others, maybe not. Neither apparent, reaction or response matters. Is working through karma something substantial on this path? Seems most people I meet experiencing this did resolve a big deal of charge there. Feels like a trap or a joke, though, somehow. What role did it play on your seeming path in a previous timeline? So all of this collapses with the dreamer that thinks that they are there and that they have free will and choice. Karmic implications requires choice and free will, it seems. There is none. There is no chooser. So no one ever goes right or wrong. No one ever makes a step in the right or wrong direction when the absolute beloved wholeness is already everything. So although these stories of karma and, shoulds and shouldn'ts and this and that, it's seems very convincing and appealing, attractive, and perhaps very important, it's got nothing to do with this timeless dynamic exposure that what's longed for is actually not even in front of you. It's too immediate to even be at any distance. It's simply this. It's simply the naturalness of sitting on a chair and looking at a screen or looking out at the birds and the trees. It's just what's happening. There's no there's no requirements that need to be dealt with. There's no conditions that need to be made for this to be already free and whole as it is. The bodies seem to in the empty appearance they seem to carry stuff, and that is also the empty appearance. But it's not got anything to do with this. Thank you. Would you say feelings are bound to circumstances, or do they just arise for no reason? So everything is happening without a real cause, because cause and effect too is the story of continuity and separate things influencing one another. Without real separation, there is no real causing and affecting. There is no real conditioned co-production. Everything is emptiness, so nothing is really coming from anywhere. Nothing has any real origin. Nothing has any real source. There just is immediacy. It's empty and full, totally whole and complete already. Without telling the stories about where this came from and that's, this connected to this and that, there's just nothing. All of it's nothing.
Oh, Alexis.
Hello.
Um, I can't help but just trying to, because when you was it Monday you talked about non-existence. So there's no existence, and today you mentioned it as well.
Hmm.
No existence. It seems like it's fascinating. How come there's no existence? It's so crazy. But it seems so close that uh, I hear it and then I sort of try to get hold of it.
Hmm.
Can't help it, but at least I think it's not. There's no way I can understand it.
No, no, there's nothing to pin down and understand. There's no foundation where all of this is orbiting around, and the concepts aren't close or far. There's nothing to actually grasp or pin down or hold on to. So the attempt it's like trying to grab the air. And there's nothing to actually hold on to.
I keep trying. I keep trying it. Yes.
Well, let me know when you find something.
Thanks.
It's unrecognized, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not recognizable.
No.
There's nothing separate from it to recognize.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, then when that which looks for something,
Mhm.
the energy of looking stops, then this is just obvious.
Yeah.
But that's impossible to understand from the apparent perspective of the individual because it understood everything in its life, it thinks.
Mm,
So it thinks it's somehow this can be
mm,
recognized and understood.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Like this is just another thing that I relate to. Once upon a time it was philosophy or psychology, and now it's non-duality. Now this is the new thing that I relate to and think about. Yeah.
This really is it now,
Yeah.
you know? This is the real deal this time. I finally found it, the yoga and all the other stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
the relationships or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the more you look, the stronger you get in the sense, because you reinforce. I mean, you don't do it, but the looking reinforces the sense of being someone.
Yes. Yeah. It seems to be part and parcel of all of that package. Yeah. And if the looking seems to stop, then the that which seems to be looking also dies. Yeah. So when it thinks it's really looking for this, what it actually seems to be doing is avoiding it.
Yeah.
Paradoxically.
Alexis, the knowing that there is something that cannot be wanted, but the knowing is also something that cannot be wanted, or that the illusion. Like this cannot be wanted and cannot be known. But there's a sense of, yes, I know this. But that's what immediately what's happening. That's not something wrong. Like that, that the false.
Yeah.
I say
This
that knowing is also just immediately something that cannot be wanted happening.
Yeah, there's just what's happening essentially. And what's happening is not objectifiable really, so then it can't be wanted. It's not a thing to be wanted. There's nothing to be wanted. There's nothing to get, nothing to have, nothing to hold on to, and nothing to let go of. There is only this.
It's just everything includes everything that's happening is
Mm.
unknowable. It's unwantable. So, yeah.
Is the sense of a separate self also what's happening, or is that not even what's happening?
Well, it's not really happening, is it? I mean, there is no one actually listening to this. There's there's no one actually separate from this empty appearance.
Yeah. So when we say it's only what's happening, we
Mm.
don't include that as what's happening.
Mm. It's just
Okay.
energy. Energy seems to illusorily appear as a center. And when it seems to be illusorily appearing as a center, claims, beliefs, opinions, and perceptions seem to appear. Perceptions of a certain kind, I mean.
And the other stuff that appears, is that not illusory?
Well,
What?
that which doesn't appear within that dream is not really considered illusory. It's just empty appearance, being whatever is happening.
Hmm. What does an illusion mean, if you don't mind? Maybe a stupid question, but
Illusion, one definition for it is something that does not appear to be the way it is. But moreover, it's something that's not even happening.
hmm,
Something that's not even appearing to happen.
interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Got quite an abundance of remarks on YouTube. Let's have a look. Hello to Ariane Gomez. Sorry, I vanished. I've been absorbed in the beauty of simplicity and it feels like someone in love. Oh yes, Björk again. Wonderful. There's no separate things. Couldn't it be that there's just that's just another illusory appearance, the same way I might claim there is separate things. So whether or not this or that is illusory, it doesn't actually matter. And the semantics of this will not actually bring anyone closer or further to what's apparently happening. When it's said that this is just what is and is not, there's just what's appearing to happen, which is not sensed as illusory, it's not sensed as real, it's not sensed as unreal, because there is no one and nothing to be sensing this. It just is this. And no word really elaborates on that, because all words are this appearance too. So these words do not actually really bear any clarity or distortion, because they are part of this inseparable wholeness, which is nothing apparently happening. It's not just spouting, they say. There's implicit claims seeming to be made about the nature of existence. Well, okay, that's what's appearing to happen then. There's no one responsible for anything. Do you have any interest in learning things? Learning new things like reading books and such. So learning, whatever can seem to happen. Playing games and reading books seems to happen. It's quite free to appear. There's no one navigating any of this. It's just happening quite naturally, as is everything. Does the brain in any way, shape, or form know this then? Because that brain is still using concepts and language to express this. So there isn't actually a thing called this that anyone or anything actually knows, whether you call that the brain, the nervous system, the mind, or even a person. Nothing knows this because this isn't a thing to be known. The way knowing is talked around is as subject and object relationship, where there is something to be known and someone to be knowing. But what is expressed here, apparently shared from nothing, is that there's just what's appearing to happen, and that's all there is. So there is no subject and object in that exposure. And although it might seem like, from a separate reality at least, that this body knows that, it doesn't. It's just uttering itself, like the trees utter themselves, like the birds sing themselves. Everything is just effortlessly and positionlessly being what it is. But the reality of the sense of a subject knowing anything is exposed as an illusion. As though that apparently collapses, nothing is known, and there is no one to be knowing anything. And that will never be believed by that illusory separate reality, because it seems to live and as that reality of being a knower, knowing this, that, and the other. And so it doesn't seem to, I mean, this is not relating to that at all. It's totally and thoroughly unrelatable, and ridiculous as well, of course. It's ridiculous as far as that sense is concerned. If it seems like there's a sense of something hearing this, it more often than not just seems to be the balmiest thing that those ears and heart and brain and mind and nervous system could ever possibly hear. And for other bodies, it sounds completely not true, but yes. There can just be a yes to this.
Can I do that? Can you tell me? How can I say yes? Give me instructions.
Well, it already does, huh? It's already said yes. Instructions.
I don't know. I was reading something else. I heard there can be a yes to this, and I was like, tell me how, because I wouldn't, I can't say yes to this. Even if mentally I say yes, I can't,
Yeah.
the entire contracted energy is simply fighting against this the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. But the impersonal resonance about this seems to be what is meant by the yes, like that it's I'm not hearing this, but it's as though it's being heard, but I'm not hearing it. Hearing is happening, and that's the kind of yes, but it's no one ever, obviously it's got nothing to do with anyone, trying
See,
to do
I don't even think it's that even beyond this, like, because there's no separate bodies. It's just an
no.
inner recognition of itself. It's like just, it's not. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't look. It's the recognition is not located in the body in that sense. I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be whatever it wants to be for anyone until the next thing. There's an individuated soul beating the heart of the body. It's not the ego illusion created in the brain computer. That's our spiritual nature. Do you believe service has value? Only relatively speaking. And relativity is a dream. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong, actually, with anything. But in a relative reality, it seems like things matter, they have values, and this needs to be done, and that needs to happen, and supposed to this, supposed to that, should, shouldn't, etc.
Maybe one thing I can just add to what you're saying, Alexis, is I was just thinking as you were talking about how sometimes emptiness is talked about as expressing itself. I don't know if you've come across this, but I do find it useful. Uh, I can't remember the particular teaching, but it talks about emptiness expressing itself as openness, sensitivity, and clarity.
Mm.
And that does make some sense to me in terms of even if I sort of open to this meeting, what appears to be happening, as far as I can tell. I mean, you'll probably say, you're not communicating anything, but there seems to be a communication which is both wisdom and compassion. And I would sort of characterize that as having an openness to it, a clarity and a sensitivity.
Mm.
I personally think that that's a great way to think about what this is.
Mm.
It seems that the seeking is just inevitable, and it is sort of expressed also when you talk about this longing that seems to be inevitably there.
Mm.
We will obviously question, we will obviously look when we don't have this type of experience of openness, clarity, and sensitivity as fully as, probably has happened for you. But I think it does seem to open it up. I think if at least that can be reflected upon, I think the sense that its openness, its sensitivity, its clarity.
Mm. Yeah, there can seem to be an opening, a resonating and a basking, which is beyond all words, terms, and concepts and suggestions. Of course, it's like it's it could be suggested that that's boundlessly energetic and it's radiating and pulsating in and as everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously within the limitations of language itself, but I think it's a useful way to sort of either think about it, reflect about it, or try and intuit.
Well, that which is trying to do that is resisting it, really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm. Can you share a window on how you feel it in every day? The same person asks, I mean, after your death, what is your relationship with thoughts and feelings? Do you ever get annoyed? So there's no relationship. There's no relationship. There's no relating. There's no relativity, really. There's only immediacy. The thoughts and feelings don't have an owner anymore. They never did. They never did. So thoughts and feelings are just simply this. They are as empty and full and impersonal as anything and everything else. That is the way it is already for everything and everybody, but there's no separate things to actually know that or relate. Why couldn't a self or separation be? So anything can appear to be, but there is never really the appearance of a self. It is never found, and it's never really looked for. There's just looking, appearing to happen. But nothing is ever found. No self is ever really found. It's an illusion. Whether that's believed or not makes no difference. And it doesn't need to be believed or disbelieved, because that would just be another object. Alexis, do you ever say there's nobody to place an order to a waiter at a restaurant? I don't do that, but what I do say is, I'm sorry, but there's no one to pay the bill. It only is convenient at the end. Some bodies are so lucky to have that natural resonance and ripeness for the illusion to fall away. It's like a privilege, like being born smart or rich or attractive. It isn't really like that. I mean, this isn't about being lucky or unlucky. I mean, that's a story that would project the gratification of getting something out of this, but actually it's if anything it's a loss, and even that's too much really. But this is not about gaining something for sure. It's not really about losing something either, because there never was anyone to have or lose, to have and have not. Um, it's not really about luck. It's not about bad luck. And no one actually wants to die, really. I mean, no reality that would seem to feel like it's contracted, located, positional, concentrated. That energy in its experiential illusory reality does not want to die. It doesn't want to dissolve. It doesn't actually really have wants and needs, but in the story it seems that way. And already nothing needs to happen. And that's the thing that really seems to not be heard, actually. As though all the rest of the concepts about there's nothing happening, everything is nothing, there's emptiness and fullness, and no choice, no chooser, etc. Those things seem to be understood, but what really can't be heard is that this is already This is already immediacy. This is already home. There already is no thing to fall away. That can't be heard. But hearing is appearing to happen. Everything is nothing, then this body will self-feed. Just do anything and exhale. Well, the body already has no driver inside of it. That's a huge mug. Well, you know, live large, die large. Cheers. Live large, die larger. Yep, that's another good one. Live fast, die young. Leave a pretty corpse. I like it.
That was James Dean.
James Dean.
He
Yeah,
did just that. Well, I'm not sure if it was pretty after the accident.
yeah, true. I guess that which cannot be known. Yeah. When it's recognized that the past is just a story, does it lose all seriousness and relevance? Not only does it lose all seriousness and relevance, it's totally everything has disappeared. Everything has disappeared. There's nothing to relate to, nothing to hold on to, because there is no one to be relating or holding. There's just immediacy. Everything is completely immediacy without anyone looking.
Is that immediacy an experience?
No, no, it's the absence of experience. It's not pinned onto a body. It's not like this is having an experience of absence and which is immediacy and that isn't. It's not located, it's everything. Yeah.
Hmm.
Would you look at a past memory the same way you look at a fictional story you read somewhere? So the you in that statement or question rather is not there. So there's no relating basically. There's no relating to memories, there's no relating to stories. There just is what's appearing to happen for no one, to no one, with no one, and by no one.
When I watch your videos on YouTube, it's often a non-experience, I guess, then of a contraction falling away in the center of the chest, and which leaves me with a lot of stillness and silence and peace, I would say. Um, but it would seem, it would appear that that needs a constant. I need to do it all the time. I mean,
Oh,
words fail me here. Again, that's why you get. I'm responsible for half of the views because I need to keep watching because because of that stillness. No, but and I know we're not talking about cause and effect, but for some reason when I listen, often sometimes the words resonate in some way to no one, and what feels like a contraction seems to just release in a way. It feels very much as a bodily sense that is no longer present in a way. But it appears later on. I
mhm,
don't know if that's common, something you've heard before, but it's very peaceful to do it at times, at least.
mhm, mhm. It seems like that's how it appears to happen for some bodies, yeah. Hi, Alexis. Speaking about your apparent awakening or liberation, how is it for you in sleeping state? Do you perceive dreams as illusions? As in, are you aware you're not in the dream in sleeping state? So there is no awareness. There's no one left, and no one has an awakening or liberation. If we could call it liberation, which makes it sound a bit grandiose for my liking, or this liking, it's the complete annihilation of anyone going after that. So it's not a special thing. It's not a state, an experience, or an event that ever really happens. It's already this without someone looking for it, and already there is no one to be looking or not looking. So everything is just as it is. It's completely natural, simple, ordinary, and free, and that is already. That's already. There's just no sense of a center that is distant from waking, dreaming, or sleeping to know it, to relate to it. That's all. It's that simple. It's just what's appearing to happen. It's nothing special. It's nothing magnificent. It's already this, just without that illusory flickering light bulb of me, myself, and I, and my awareness. Are you non-binary? So there is no you, there is only non-binary. There is only this, which is non-binary, non-duality, no polarity, no thing whatsoever. So no labels, no one to be defined or confined. When the student is ready, the teacher disappears.
Just another observation, Alexis. I mean, I know you probably are about to draw a close to this. I'm very struck by the sense of playfulness
Mm.
in the meeting. This is obviously the first time I've come to a live meeting. I've watched quite a few of the video playbacks, which obviously don't quite have the same sort of resonance as, this sort of appearing live. But yeah, I'm very, very struck by the sense of, I don't quite know how to describe it, the playfulness. And I don't know what else to say. I think that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah, it can seem quite playful, yeah. What games do you play? Gears of War, Halo. Street Fighter. Is there any way for you to elaborate what is immediacy as everything? What is the source of energy that you had spoken about? So, source means origin, pretty much, and there is no source or origin without separation. So there is no center. There's no thing that where everything comes out of or arises from. Immediacy is total and nothing at all. There's nowhere to pin that down to. There's no way of even elaborating on it because it's all there is and it's nothing at all. So any elaboration is just immediacy appearing as that too. There's no way of getting out of this, of escaping this immediacy. It's inescapable. It's all and none. Nothing and everything. Does discussing about non-binary serve any purpose for ones who are not there? Can it work as a trigger, or it's just going nowhere unless you reach there on your own? So there just is no sense that anything belongs to anyone. Nothing belongs to anyone, including a body. No bodies actually belong to a person in the center of it. There's no center. So identity is not real. There's no labels, and labels and identity, can seem to appear, but they're just stories. So they're not wrong or right, and that's not what's being said. But there's no sense that actually any identity is really happening, or that, I mean, bodies appear a certain way, and characteristics and preferences seem to happen quite naturally, but nothing is actually owned by anyone. Nothing actually belongs to anyone. So what would have seemed really personal and important and experiential there, this is not real.
I've heard someone say that this message could sound a bit nihilistic. What is the meaning of nihilistic? What does that mean? And what's yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you know anything about it.
I don't know much about nihilism, to be honest, but it seems to be, of what little I may seem to know, which is nothing at all, actually. But what seems to be is a view. It seems to be a view or a philosophy. It seems to be perhaps a way of life, that someone could live by a viewpoint that nothing matters and that there is no meaning to any of this, or there's no meaning to my life. But this is really going apparently an immediate step further than all of that and saying not only does nothing matter, there is no one for this to matter to. So it's not the same, because as a view, this may well look and seem very nihilistic, but actually without that subjective illusion for this to be viewed or interpreted, or for there to be even a perspective, it's complete liberation on no one's terms. And that is more freeing than any word could ever say.
Awesome. Thank you.
Street Fighter 6, yes, yes, exactly. You remind me of the new RoboCop when he says there's nothing left. I really prefer the original, actually. Yeah, where he walks like he shit himself. Well, it's a classic 80s, isn't it? And it's over the top violent. What keeps the vessel known as Alexis from offing itself? So this will be the last question to answer, as it's 6:01. Yes, remakes do tend to suck, don't they? Lacks originality and some innovation, it seems. Yeah, well, there's nothing stopping anything from happening, but bodies. I mean, organisms in so-called nature and wild. Well, they don't seem to kill themselves. I mean, the neurosis of feeling like a separate person and all of the confusion that seems to grow out of that illusory dualistic dream, with all of the suffering that can seem to breed in that timeline, can seem in the timeline to lead to suicide and depression and addictions of various kinds. We don't need to go into all of that. I'm sure everyone here is probably familiar with the stories, personal or not. But actually the absence of that energy, which isn't already really happening, at least not the way it seems to be. Well, there's just what is. It's totally natural. Just the total naturalness and the spontaneity, the immediacy of this. And, an organism is just simply free to be what it is, to express as it is, without all of the misconceptions of it being, imposed upon and projected upon and interpreted as an individual that needs to behave this way or that way. There just is the naturalness, simple freedom, every baby being that, really, and every animal being that, and every organism and plant being that, just simple naturalness of this. Nothing wrong or right, just freedom on no one's terms. Thank you, everybody. Much love.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you all soon.